SayGeizi, what do you know about Plato and God? Well, let me tell you. I did a video not too long ago on my channel, SayGeizi, when it was formerly known as the Outlet Podcast. In my playlist, I have a episode where I talked about Plato and Jesus Christ and the parable of the cave. And if you don't know about the parable of the cave, you'll probably learn it. You'll definitely learn it in when you do psychology or philosophy in community college, or if you're at a really good high school, that's where you'll learn it there too. In the allegory of the cave, Plato actually wrote it because he had a certain distaste for what had happened to his mentor Socrates. Socrates was killed for his ideas. Now, the allegory of the cave, there's awesome videos. There's awesome videos on YouTube about it. So I don't want to go too far into it, but I will explain the certain parts that relate to Jesus, because it's interesting. In the allegory, there are some prisoners that have been prisoners in a cave for years. They've been there for years. They've never stepped outside. They don't know anything about the outside world at all. Behind them, lifted up on a platform, is a giant fire. It's a giant fire that's going in front of the platform. Actually, on it, there's a level, like a level, and behind that level, that there are people who hold up stick figures of shapes. The shapes can be in the shape of a human being. There could be shapes in the shape of animals or whatnot. So these prisoners, all they see is the shadows from the fire of the images projected in front of them. They start to time the movement of those animals. They make stories based on those animals, and they even congratulate each other, and they make contests about who can project what animal will show up, or so what happens is one of the prisoners gets set free. The prisoner turns around and painstakingly looks at that fire, and his eyes cannot adjust or accept what he's actually seeing. Because what he's seeing now, he's seeing these puppets, these fake things projected onto the rock in front of him. That he saw all the shadows. He ends up walking out of the cave and is completely disoriented, because now he sees things and he hears things, and everything he's a witness of is because of the Son, Jesus, the Son. This is where the point I want to get to, because in the allegory of the cave, is the fire false? Is it a lie? Not necessarily. The fire was doing naturally what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to, it provided heat, which they enjoyed, but they were probably unaware of the fact that it provided heat, and it provided the light to make the shadows of those puppets. However, this prisoner that was freed from his chains, now he looks at what light really is, and he starts seeing things, and everything he thought he knew before, it's all counted as loss. It's all a joke. It's all because it wasn't really demonstrating the true, here's the word, form. Plato, Socrates, I believe, talked a little bit about forms, but Plato definitely went on and talked about forms. If you don't know what the idea of Plato's forms are, long story short, imagine a perfect dog. Imagine the idea dog, the alpha #1 dog. Some of you may be imagining pit bulls. Some of you may be imagining chihuahuas. Some of you may be imagining golden retrievers or chocolate labs. The idea dog. What is the idea dog? The #1 dog. Do they all have ears? Do they all bark? What is the idea? What is the form? And it's not a canine thing either. What constitutes a chair? What is the form of a chair? What is the definition of the chair? Is the definition of a chair a wooden object with 4 legs that you can sit down upon when you're tired? You usually use a chair when you are sitting in movie theaters or you're sitting for dinner. However, can a stone be a chair if all it is something to sit upon? You see, so the idea of forms, it transcends what you may have, what your preconceived notions are. The prisoner, as he was in the cave, had many preconceived notions about what he saw to be true, to be real. But now, as he's in the light, he's able to see things in their proper perspective. So what I want to do is compare the sun to the fire. What is the fire wrong? Is the fire false? Is the fire just a semblance, or is it a percentage, a small representation of what the sun is? If the sun is just a series of molecular explosions, that's what fire is. A series of molecular explosions that produce heat. They both produce heat. They both produce energy. Well, maybe you might get me on the energy part. Maybe they don't. Maybe a fire doesn't produce energy as it does heat. Both cause things to give comfort. Both are necessary for certain things in life. However, the sun seems to have it. The sun seems to have it over the fire in this respect. The sun gives off, like I said, energy to living things that need it. We get when we get certain radiation from the sun that we need. I think it's vitamin D. Plants need the sun for photosynthesis. If you look at this in a Christian perspective, because that's what I am, I think what is best noted is that while we were lost in sin, while we were in the world, while we had our preconceived notions about what is real, about what matters, while we had all these things in our heads, we were bound and chained, and we didn't know how lost we were. We didn't understand the condition that we were in, since we were born into slavery. However, when your chains are miraculously loosened, better. When your chains are loosened, when you step out of the cave, and when you actually begin to see the sun, when you see what is reality, what should be, well, now you're properly illuminated. Now you are actually informed. Just like Socrates, you're filled with so much satisfaction and resolution. You go back into the cave and you endeavor to educate your fellow prisoners about what is real. However, since their minds are so tethered to what they see in front of themselves, they kind of disregard you. That's what society did to Socrates, and they ended up killing Socrates. That's what they ended up doing to Jesus Christ. And that's what I feel might be going on in present day. Everybody counts things as fake news. People disregard what is fact. Even simple things that they teach in school, because it's all subjective, not necessarily. So I wanted to talk about this again since I re-saw Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Go check out some awesome videos on YouTube about it. My name is SayGeizi. Remember, SayGeizi.